Mermaid stories have been circulating these ancient waters since the dawn of time. To this day, a lot of you have been talking about your own experiences with mermaids. So, let's get into mermaid tales that we needed to be there to believe. This story comes from the user Infinite Emotions, who can't 100% clarify that if this was a mermaid, but it was a strange experience overall and wanted to share their story. The user recalls a vacation that her dad took her and her brother on, a tag along to their uncle's getaway to Sanibel Islands. When they got there, apparently their aunt was quick to give them all a pair of goggles, the kids that is, and told them to go explore the ocean while the adults set up. This was her first time exploring with goggles apparently, and for the first few moments all they could really make out was green algae everywhere, until she spotted something else. It was a gray tail, but she notes that it wasn't vertical or scaly like a regular fish. It caught her attention and proceeded to follow this strange fishtail, coming up for oxygen occasionally. It wasn't until one moment of coming up for air she heard her name being called out by her aunt. Her aunt was catching up to her frantically because she had apparently swam out nearly a mile from the beach and nearly crossed over the barrier that led into some strong currents. If my aunt had been just a little bit slower, I'd have been in the current and swept out to sea, is what she had to say about that. We all know the stories that mermaids like to lead their victims into danger, right? Mermaid or not, that is a chilling story. User Antique Tradition 72 has a story that they heard from someone else when they were in their early tweens, but was right there with them at the time that it happened. There was a beach, and before the beach there was a bridge that went over water that led back into the ocean. Apparently the water under the bridge had quite the large pool, and the user and their brother would often look down at it when they crossed it. You know, kid stuff, they'd say. Suddenly though, their brother had an intense look on his face and immediately went back to the condo with their sibling, quickly going into his room and shutting the door. He told them he insisted that he saw a mermaid beneath the bridge, almost in tears. The user had poor eyesight, however, and personally doesn't recall anything, but based on their brother's description and emotion, they kind of started believing him. They state, he didn't describe the normal, beautiful, shell bra pop culture mermaid with a long, graceful tail with the big fin. He said he saw a young girl, about my age at the time, with what looked like light blue skin. He said she was wearing a 3/4 sleeve top that looked like it was woven out of seaweed, with the little bladders still dangling off in some places like decoration. Her tail was actually only about as long as legs would be, and her tail fin was actually pretty small and looked almost translucent like a real fish's fin, with yellow eye spots on each of the flukes. They weren't able to go down and check again, being forced to spend time with their grandparents sadly, and when the user tried to ask their brother years later, he doesn't recall the event. The description of the translucent tail kind of did it for me. Usually when people describe mermaids, it's all the same, but this was a child possibly in their single digits saying something completely different this time. That was fascinating. User LadderTowel9403 tells us a story about the time they had a terrifying encounter with a mermaid in a river near their grandparents' home. They were fishing in the river with their dog, Josie, just relaxing up against a tree. Suddenly, their bobber went down beneath the water, and their dog started freaking out. The rod was nearly pulled out of their hands, and they thought they caught something relatively big like a catfish. They would follow the line closer towards the water, while their dog was trying to bite at their legs, almost as if they were getting them to stop. They wouldn't though, describing the experience as if they were in a trance state, slowly getting closer to the water. This is what they said next. Then something broke the surface of the water in front of me, and all I could see was this torso and head of a greenish brown head, and I saw its hand. Yes, a hand was pulling my line towards it, and I was so scared, but couldn't stop as it brought me closer. Their dog managed to bring them out of this trance with its barking, threateningly trying to nip at the creature. This gave the user enough time to get away, quickly grabbing the dog and booking it out of the water. When the adrenaline wore off and they were back at the house, they noticed a piece of their dog's ear was gone, and there was red fluid everywhere. The vet told the user that their dog was extremely lucky, even showing them the tooth they extracted from the dog's skull. It was never clarified, but was told by the doctor it looked like an alligator's tooth, but they knew better. They never told their family about the experience. I don't like it when animals get caught in these messes. They're too innocent and sweet, and to be going through all that. but it's spooky as all heck to have a story happen so close to your own home, and in a river at that. One amphibian, 5831, has a story to share when they were visiting Thailand with their father and younger brother at the age of 13. They specifically went to Phi Phi Islands on a boat that was specific for tourists, bringing them to areas where they can explore and snorkel around. Amphibian claimed that they were snorkeling around a floating island and had heard their dad call out to them, stating that he and the other tourists spotted some kind of shark out in the distance. But being a kid, they weren't really listening and continued looking at fish with their brother. However, with the floating island next to them, they noticed that they also had smaller caves underwater as well, and that's where their story begins. I saw something slowly coming out of there. It was similar to a human head, facing down towards the bottom of the ocean. I completely froze up and kept staring. The person kind of floated out of the cave, never faced up towards the surface, and did it really slowly. Nothing of this person that I could see was moving. By this point, I could see the back of the head and almost of the back. The person had really sparse black hair, slicked down to the scalp. Their skin looked gray, and their spine was extremely pronounced. I was so sure that I was looking at a corpse, and I completely froze up. I couldn't breathe or move. Time felt like it was standing still. The person kept floating out of the cave, and that's when I started seeing its tail. The tail was dark gray and looked like a stereotypical mermaid tail. I blinked multiple times, convinced I was hallucinating, but I kept seeing it. I never believed in the supernatural, but this thing was only a few meters below me and I could see it so clearly. Where is my classic little red-headed mermaid singing with her fish friends? This is just straight up out of a horror movie. This final mermaid tale comes from a user by the name of Texe, who claims to have spotted an extremely ugly mermaid while he was sailing with other people from Sweden to the Netherlands. Yeah, damn, you didn't have to drag her like that. And fun fact, Ariel's story takes place around the shores of Denmark, which is not far off from Sweden. The user says this should have been an easy sail, and to quote, a cup of tea and 2 cigarettes distance. However, a younger Swedish crewmate by the name of Sven yelled out that there was a giant fish just lying about in the water. Isaac, his father, quickly took to action to his call, but could not see what the boy was referring to. They simply ignored this and dismissed his claim as having an over-imaginative mind, or even being a victim to the illusion of having the sun dance around on the water. But after 90 seconds, the crew felt a thud against their boat. He quotes, "Not like we hit something, but like someone had thrown a rock against our bow." Worried that something had marked their ship, the user quickly ran to where the sound came from, but found nothing. The entire crew was baffled and confused, wondering what the heck was going on. Considering that they were close enough to shore, they decided to anchor and take a quick look around the boat to make sure there was nothing actually damaged. It was all fine. The user and their first mate Adam then spotted something in the water, to which he yelled, "Man overboard." The user quickly swam over, water freezing and unkind with it being the North Sea, and just barely seeing a woman's head just poking out of the water. He tried to grab her arms to pull her up above the shore, but she apparently tried to drag him further down. When he managed to get a good look at the woman, she noticed she had a strange bottom half compared to the top. The crew and the user tried to bring her onto the boat with ropes, to which then another crew member asked, "Are you alright? Can we get you anything?" The user recalls her voice being, and I quote, "clear as a new moon in summer." She says, "About 350. It was only then that the user realized that this woman was no woman at all, but the Loch Ness Monster. So he tells her, "Well, you just get out of here, you damn Loch Ness Monster. I ain't giving you no damn $3.50. But claims still he's never seen a mermaid. I'm sorry, but I had to include that last one as an avid South Park fan myself. It got me good in the first half too, and it was too good not to add. Even if obviously it wasn't real. Or was it? I hope you all struggle to sleep tonight after those spooky tellings of mermaids. If not, like and subscribe to this video so I get the chance to try and spook you again. Stay creepy, my crawlies.